Good morning, untethered listeners. I'm Abbey Rose, spiritual accountant, and today I am spilling the tea. Yep, that's right. I'm going to be spilling the tea in today's episode. My dogs are getting excited. This is like a secret squirrel podcast, and today I have tea and I'm spilling the tea. I've stayed quiet on this for a long time. Like, obviously, when I go and post on social media and I share some information or some strategies or some education, I might say some things that goes a little bit against the grain and call out. I like to call out bad behavior or call out inauthentic. I just like to call out the BS. Because let's face it, whenever people go onto social media and you're scrolling and you see all these businesses and these coaches and these people there's people doing amazing things. There's people doing amazing things. And like, I want to preface everything that I say in today's episode is like, comes from a place of love, because my intention for you is to hear the truth so that you can let go of the judgment or criticism that you might have over yourself. Because when you go onto social media and you're comparing yourself to all those other coaches, all those other businesses, all those other entrepreneurs who look so fancy and shiny with the pretty graphics and amazing photos, and they're so successful because they're posting all this wonderful stuff and they tell you how successful they are. Well, today I've got a bit of tea because like, it's like, it doesn't even want to come out because I have to be careful, because as an accountant, I'm bound by confidentiality. But you've got to understand, like, people come to me because they trust me with their finances. And please, I absolutely cherish the relationships with businesses that I have and those people that I support. But I also, for the sake of the greater good of community, want to share some of the truths. So I'm not going to be name dropping, but let's just say as an accountant, I see behind the scenes, and you can tell the health of someone's business based by their finances, not their bank balance, their finances, their management of their finances. I don't care how much money you got in the bank. What I care is what you do with it. And I'll tell you, over the years, I have seen some shady, because I'll see these posts on social media from these so-called successful coaches or mentors or healers or, but then I see what happens in the background, and I'm telling you, the math doesn't math. The math does not math, and it's all smoke and mirrors. They are sharing these things because that's the hook. That's dangling the carrot. Look how successful I am. I can make you successful too. And usually I find that the people who are actually successful, the people who are actually killing it, they don't have to shout it from the rooftops. They don't shout it from the rooftops. Well, it comes back down to success, right? What is your definition of success? And having a ton of money in the bank, is that success? I don't know. What is success to you? What is actual success? What does success feel like to you? But really, let's go back to the confidence element, because I want to stop all this judgment and comparison, because it's so different for everyone. And when we can stop projecting out the expectations on ourselves based on other people's experiences, we're actually going to flow a lot better in business. So let's get into the tea, shall we? So what I want to start off by saying is this is one of my favorite sayings, and I share it in my Untethered webinar every month, right? And what it is gross profit, right? So sales, right? Gross profit is vanity. Sales, like, let's talk about vanity metrics. I'll tell you what vanity metrics are. It's likes, follows, shares, gross sales, right? What your total sales are. Those vanity metrics, if you're measuring yourself up against other people and what their following is, how many likes they get, how many sales they make, that is a gross misrepresentation of the business and their social media. Because let's face it, people can buy bot followers these days. Like, it's those vanity metrics, if you're comparing to that, it's not conducive to your business, and you'll be forever comparing outside of yourself, right? I even had one woman come through my Instagram once, and I don't get many likes, I don't get many follows, I don't get many comments, but She doesn't know how many DMs I get. She doesn't know how many people come through to my group. She doesn't know how many sales I make from that. She doesn't know how much I support people, right? And then it was like when she came through that and experienced that, she's like, oh, wow, you only get like 3 likes on your post, but you're so successful. And I'm like, that's because those things don't correlate. It's got absolutely nothing to do with it. So vanity metrics is complete insanity. Like we need to let go of those vanity metrics. So then net profit is sanity. Net profit, right? So your net profit margin. So it's not how many sales you make, it's what your net profit is. It's after expenses. Right? And okay, here's an example, spilling first tea. Right. So I had a client that was sharing a lot about how she was a multi-million dollar business. She was an event management business, multi-million dollars, speaking gigs, events all over Australia. And she was using that as a hook to get speakers and people into the business. But when I looked at the back end of her business, because she came to me, she's like, Abby, help me. I'm so far behind. Usually these people who aren't really, I wouldn't say financially inclined, is like everyone has a different financial management style, right? Money management is a spectrum. It's not a one way approach, right? So I treat money management differently for everyone, because some people, they love to micromanage their finances. That's one side of the spectrum. And then other people on the other end of the spectrum, they don't even look at their finances. And it's not that either is right or wrong. It's not about what you do, but it's where that decision comes from. So if you don't look at your finances at all, but you're in complete divine trust and surrender and flow with your money, then there's obviously no need for you to look at it. You're in flow. Universe provides for you. But if you don't look at your finances because you're burying your head in the sand and you're afraid, right? So that they're very different energies to look at your money from. So it's not about what you do, but it's the energy that's supporting that, right? So this client, beautiful woman, beautiful. And she buried her head in the sand, right? Completely buried her head in the sand. And she was hemorrhaging money out everywhere. She was barely making ends meet, right? And we worked out the net profit, and there actually wasn't a profit. It was a loss. So her expenses were more than her sales. Her business, whilst it was a multi-million dollar business, it was running at a loss. I don't know about anyone else, but if you're running a business, the whole concept of having a business is to create financial freedom, right? To create unlimited capacity for yourself. But most people are in their business and it's like they're a slave to their business. And when you look at the net profit, some of these net profit margins are less than minimum wage. So what's the point of running a business if what you take home at the end of it is less than minimum wage? What's the point, right? So whilst it's really great to spruik that you have a multi-million dollar business, when you're not taking anything from that, when you're not benefiting from that, you're trapped by it. Safe to say, a few years on, that business is dead and buried now. So this is where I feel like, net profit is sanity. We need to look at our net profits and look at the financial health. But people focus on that net profit and they don't realize that the net profit is actually a byproduct of all the other decisions that you're making in business. It's the byproduct of all the other metrics that you're making in business. So whilst gross profit is insanity, net profit is sanity, cash flow is always king. And I say cash flow, not cash, because cash in the bank, you're like losing money at the rate of inflation. And the rate of inflation is not what they say it is. Because when they account for inflation in the economy, they don't include property, transport, or food and resources. So the rate of inflation, when you add those things back in, is more like 15%. So $100 in the bank account in a year's time is worth 85. Cash in the bank account is not an asset. it's actually depreciating in value. And a lot of people, let's go into investment and they talk about, crypto being volatile and the stock market and this and that. There's so many different opinions on that, but I just say cash flow is king, and cash flow is the lifeblood of your business. Cash flow is what fuels your business. It's like the energy. You think blood through our body, right? The lifeblood of our body keeps all of our muscles breathing, living, growing, cells regenerating. So cash is the same. So you want to keep cash flow moving through your business, but you want that cash flow to move effortlessly. It's like money is an energy. And this is why cash flow is king, because when you can manage your cash flow, you can manage the energy of your business, you can manage the decisions that you're making. This is when we can increase it exponentially. So, what I want to spill the tea on is all of these people that say one thing about their business and about their success on Facebook, on social media, and then all these other people who are trying to build their business and trying to, grow and develop and carry on and create and just, make their mark in the world and stand out in the crowd and I want people to focus on the thing that's actually going to be the key driver of your success, and it's your cash flow. It's your lifeblood. It's your energy. It's your decisions. And if you're making decisions based on other people's projections that are a lie, blatant lies, you cannot believe what you see on social media when people talk about success. You just can't. It's so limiting. So when you focus on your own success, you focus on your own lifeblood, you focus on your own energy, clear the noise, because the noise is the false matrix, right? Everyone's out there saying their thing, and I see it as the noise is the false matrix. And if you're tapped into the noise and tapped into the false matrix, it's going to limit you from accessing your true potential. We want to tap into your truth, your essence, because it's your essence that is going to be the lifeblood of your business. You are. No one can drive your legacy other than you. And this is why I firmly believe in, like, when you can build that connection and build that confidence and that self-esteem and connect more and understand yourself and navigate the decision-making process and be attuned to the nuances of your being, that's when you become your own business coach. You don't need someone else. You become the business coach because you have the confidence, because you have the drive, and because you can then navigate all that. I'll tell you, I've had more success in my business when I listen to the truth of my essence than anything external. Anything external. I'll give you an example. I had one coach tell me once, oh, you need to create this lead magnet and do this and do that. And I'll tell you, I did. And I created, what was it? Financial archetypes. Financial archetype. It's still there somewhere. I don't know where. We'll find it. Maybe we'll do a something jig of it. But it was like this quiz, and you get this archetypes, and you get this book, and it's all about transformations, working out your financial archetype, and then uncovering your money blocks. Right. When I launched that, it was a flop. Right. Because I was putting it outside of myself. And then I remember the exact moment when my soul streams landed, and this was like the nuances of my own essence. And these downloads, they happen at the most random time, right? But we've got to be in that high vibration. We've got to be in a higher frequency, in self-worth, in self-love, in confidence, right? High self-esteem, and these things start landing. And I remember when the soul streams landed, I had the whole thing built out within 4 hours. I posted about the beta version on Facebook, and I had over 200 signups from one post. And it was like, boom, right? This is powerful. And it worked, and it's still going. And it's such a beautiful offering, connecting people to their legacies. right? To their soul's essence. That's what it's all about, your soul essence. It's not about the other people's soul essence. That's their essence, and they have their own path and their own journey. Everyone's needed, right? It's not a competition. There is no every single one of us is needed. We all have our place. We all have our role, but it's the noise that is killing it. It's killing your voice. It's killing your confidence. Okay, so I shifting gears a little bit now, because I also want to spill the tea on all of the people that reached out to me. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. When I was going through my own sort of transformation, my own sort of death and rebirth, I don't know if you remember the death of the spiritual accountant. We're always in a space of evolution, right? And if you want to step into something new, a greater version, you have to be prepared to let go of the old. And so when I was moving into that creation space, I was like really dropping into my legacy and like what is this all about? And this is when, whenever I'm looking at creating a new product or a new service or a new offering, I don't create what I feel I want, right? If I did that, I probably wouldn't even have created half of the things. But I see a lot in the coaching spaces, especially where people are creating the things that they needed. And whilst that's a good strategy, it's not the only strategy. And I think, I learned this back in uni, but if you want to have a successful business, you've got to create a solution to a problem. So first of all, we need to know what the problem is. When I was going through my little shift, I was like, okay, what's the biggest problem? And I put a calling out, and I started asking questions, and I got curious for like a month, right? And so this is my market research phase, right? So many business owners don't do market research. You're missing half the point. Right? If you want to have a successful business, you've got to create what other people want. The only way to know what other people want is ask them. They're going to tell you. And if they tell you what they want and then you create that, that's half the job done, right? So I was in this market research phase, and I was having lots of conversations, and I was just trying to find what the nuances between different things were. And it was really interesting because I was like, okay, I'm going to create a free business health check. Right? And I did a post, and I was like, I'm going to do a free business health check. I'm going to look at everyone's finances and ask some questions. And based on the financial health check, we can then work out what people need. Right. So I was like, whoever wants a free business health check, reach out. And it's so funny because, especially with finances, you can see the trauma, right? The trauma response people have around this, because no one commented on the post. But do you know how many DMs I got? I got a lot. I was very busy because I think around finances there's this shame, right? There's guilt, and people carry so much guilt and shame around it. And as well as letting go of the judgment and criticism, I really want people to let go of that guilt and shame. Because if you're attached to those past decisions that you've made, or where you thought you want to be at and you're not quite there, like that also is holding you back. Like if we just look at what is, right? And I have financial management, or I don't have financial management. I've done my taxes, or I haven't done my taxes. Like where society is conditioned to naturally feel naughty for not managing their money. Like I feel bad. I feel bad. I feel naughty. I've done something wrong. Like that's just a natural instinct. So when I offered the health check and the conversations I was having, like I remember, right? So I remember the exact person that I was speaking to, which then was the catalyst for the creation of my business metrics. And it was like, we're in conversation, beautiful coach, and she was spruiking how much money she was making and how successful she was and how many retreats she'd filled out and this and that. And then I was like, cool. Send me your financials. Let me see the last 3 years. Send me the last year. If you've got the last 3 years, I just want to see what's going on in your business, and we can pick out a few things, right? Because when I look at financials, I'm looking at different metrics of the financials, and then we can go deeper into sales metrics, lead gen frequency, retention rates, all those sorts of things. And she was like, "Oh, I don't have any." And I'm like, "Sorry, what? You don't have any? What do you mean? Like, just send me your tax returns." "Oh, no, I haven't done my tax in like 6 years." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Blank slate. This is awesome, babe. I'm so glad." And she was shocked, right? She was so shocked that I was like, fully held space for that. No judgment, no criticism. I'm like, "Babe, you have no idea. You're in the best possible position right now to have no financial management and be that successful. Wait till you see what happens when we implement a cash flow. And like, let's not even worry about tax. Like, this is the problem. People outsource their financial decisions to accountants, and accountants prepare financial reports for tax. So you are literally set up to fail, because if you are managing your business based on tax prepared financial reports, the result of that is not even close to the truth, right? So it's not that we don't worry about the tax preparation, but let's not put it at the forefront, right? So you can have tax prepared reports, or you can have financial management prepared, like strategic management reports. Two very different things. Right. So this is, I've even got a book, Seeds of Innovation. I haven't even launched it yet. And it's about strategic management, right? Because we need to remove the tax element of business and financial management. Not to say that we can't bring it in later. Don't get me wrong, but at least let's look at the financial health of your business first, and then decide what we want to do with tax. Might be yes, might be no, because tax is voluntary, right? Could be yes, could be no. But if we at least know where we're at, we can then make that decision. So I created the whole business metrics around this, because I saw, like, she was successful, right? She was turning over really good money, but she was also spending, and it's not that her decision making was bad, but it's just when you have the clarity around this, that's when you can refine. Right? It's refinement. And I've had people come through my business metrics and they're in a negative cash flow, and then they've increased it over 80% in 2 months. So when you're tracking the lifeblood of your business, and it's really effortless, it really is. Like, it takes a bit of coaching, because most of the time with financial management, people have to overcome their emotional and mental blocks with it. It's got nothing to do with the strategy that we're implementing, but it's the attachment to, "I'm not good at finances, I'm not good with numbers," or "I need an accounting degree to understand this." And I'm here to tell you that you actually don't. It's simple. It's simple, but we can really fast track some of this success and move through the different stages of growth in business, because this is the other tea. This is the other tea that I want to spill. Oh, right. It's like, have you ever seen these people that like just chop and change all of the time? They're like, one minute they're doing one thing, the next minute they're doing the next thing, and the next, and it's like, sometimes there's this element of, you've got to establish your brand and your presence and your authority in the marketplace. But there's this element of like people who chop and change all of the time. Like, if you're noticing, like, that doesn't build trust. People want to trust you. If they don't trust you, they're definitely not going to buy from you. But I had this one client that literally would be launching a new service, a new program, like every 3 months, right? Every 3 months. And and on her stories, she was putting like how I made, 40K from my stories, how I did 120K launch, like how you did this. And then it's like shit canning funnels. And then, shit canning, this doesn't work. You've just got to do this because this is what I do. But the consistency, like it was always something different all of the time. And it was interesting because then, you know, again, she came to me and was like, please help me with my finances. I was like, cool, let's just have a look. Like, she was like, I don't have a bookkeeper. I'm not registered for GST. Right. I need someone to look at it and see where I'm at. And I'm like, hang on a second. You're like talking about 120K launches and 40K months and you're not registered for GST. Like, hello. If you're not even registered for GST, that means your income is over 75,000 a year. And you're saying you did 120K launch, right? The math doesn't math. Anyway, I went into it. And again, this is where people are overinflating their income. They're like saying that this is what their sales are, but actually cash in bank at the end of the day, less than half. Because you got to understand too the sales cycle. And just because you made a sale doesn't mean you're going to make cash in bank straight away. Right? The time from sale to cash in bank could be 6 months, could be 12 months, right? Or it could be 2 days, depending on what product or service, right? So this is where I really want to educate people on this stuff because we keep outsourcing our power to all these social media influencers that seriously could not even manage their own finances, and they're just flying from one strategy to the next strategy that's a watered down version of something else some other coaches told them. And I'm like, let's park all these strategies, all this hot air, and become our own coach, become our own guide, right? Because if you can understand the financial element impacts, right? Because if you look at it, the health of your business is the financial result of the decisions that you're making in your business. So you'll make a decision in a business, it'll either make you money, save you money, or cost you money. Every single decision, right? And it might not even be a financial element, but people don't even think about lost opportunity cost, right? So you might have invested into a solution, but the lost opportunity of that, because you've focused your energy and attention that way, and that process isn't down pat, but over this way, there's a little bit more of a streamlined process, and the lost opportunity could be nearly double that. Anyway, I don't want to get too technical, but I just feel like it's not as bad now. I feel like the veil is really getting lifted and people are sensing it. I literally did a post the other day about ChatGPT because even with this, people are sensing nonsense. Like, you have to understand, humans are on an ascension journey. We're waking up, we're aware, we're more conscious, we're more attuned, people can tell. People can tell. So what worked in 2020 doesn't work in 2025. And I think the only way that we can actually step into success and step into success to what it means for us is when we stop comparing to what's on social media. Because you're getting a highlight reel, you're not getting the truth, you're getting the over sensationalized version of someone's business. But if you go into the nuts and bolts of it, what are their systems? What are their processes? What's the culture? Culture is a huge thing as well. What kind of culture is that person creating in their business as well? Right? How are they interacting with other businesses and workers? And so this is more about you than it is about them. And when you can drive your confidence, your essence, your power, your uniqueness, your gifts, your talents, like that's the secret. You're the secret. You're the secret ingredient to this. So you got to connect more to yourself and less to others. And I know it's hard, trust me. Like, I'll sometimes go on a social media bit of a binge and I'll look and see, but this is where I create rules for myself. If I'm going onto social media, I'm on social media offense, not defense, right? I'm not scrolling. I'm a creator, right? I'm going on there to create, to connect and create. I'm not in one of the, what do they call it? Like a doom scroll. You can get so, like, imagine this, like, if you can link a doom scroll, right? If you can just pattern interrupt yourself, right? Catch yourself out in the behavior. I'm doom scrolling, and then link that back to being tapped into the false matrix, right? So anytime you catch yourself doom scrolling, say, I'm tapped into the false matrix, and like literally pull yourself out of it. Connect to your higher self, your higher being, connect to the version of you that has full confidence, full self-esteem, full enlightenment, full power, full force. And what would she do? Because it probably wouldn't be doom scrolling. I've spoken into the shadow side of doom scrolling, but now let's talk into the light side of it, because it might be that you're in a doom scroll, but it's actually for you, right? Because sometimes this is what I'll do is sometimes you find yourself in this position, and it's not what you're doing, but it's the attachment to what you're doing. So it's like, what is the source or the reason why that behavior is happening? Because there'll always be a reason. And if we're in doom scrolling and feeling bad about ourselves and condemning ourselves and judging and criticizing, like, is that conducive to your higher self? Maybe not. But if you're in a doom scroll and you're actually researching, or you're commenting, or you're interacting, or you're, sometimes I find, here's another little hack. So it's not a tea, but it's a hack. And maybe this is let's spill a little bit of the tea on Abbey Rose. Like, let's spill a little bit of the tea on myself. And one of the ways that I actually created some of my success on social media is when I'm scrolling, is like I'm getting a feel for the market, like what's out there, what's happening and what's trending, what are people talking about, right? And sometimes what I'll do is there might be a few coaches or a few leaders in the space that maybe I don't agree with some of their things. And it's not that I'm getting sucked in and comparing myself to them, but I actually use them for a source of creation. And it's like, what are they saying that I don't agree with? And then share what I feel. And I don't have to like shit can them or say anything about that, but it's like you can use these things to your advantage. You can use these things to generate revenue as well. And I remember specifically, I picked a leader, and I was like, I remember back in the day, way back in the day, I picked a leader, and she's well-known coach, very successful, has a high profile, very, very much anchored in her legacy. And I remember when I first experienced her magic, and I was just like, holy shit, I want to be her accountant. Like, I want to work for these new earth leaders like you wouldn't believe. And I'd sort of built a bit of a client base on the Gold Coast of coaches and people in the spiritual, but I was like, no, this is next level. I'm going, like, here we are, we're going to go global, we're going to go, I want to work for this person. So what I did with my content from that moment forward was, anytime I shared anything, I was speaking directly to her. I was like, as if she was my client, as if she was because I just wanted her to hear what I had to say. But it wasn't that fast forward 2 years, she's my client. Still to this day, she's my client. Amazing woman, amazing, beautiful, high vibrational, just making waves. And it wasn't that I just attracted her, but I then also attracted all the others that resonated on the same frequency as her. So it was like, you can use, like, again, you can use it for inspiration, people that you don't agree with, and then you can use it for, attracting the people that you do want to work with. And I think it can be a really powerful tool. But again, it's like, what are the decisions that we're making around social media? Because there's so much emphasis on the self-worth, right? And it's like, I'm not good enough. Like, they've got all the systems or they've got all the knack, or they've got all the know-how, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not confident enough to, put my face on a camera, or I don't know how to write or articulate. And as well as finances being a spectrum, social media is a spectrum as well. Like, you've got to find what works for you on social media and just like laser focus, hone that. hone that, because my social media strategy isn't going to be the same to yours. But I'm not sitting there doom scrolling and comparing myself with everyone. I'm like paving my own way, and I love my little corner of the internet. Sure, I have people that don't agree with me. Sure, I cop a ton of hate and I have people who don't even know me saying horrible things, but it doesn't stop me, right? Because if you want to create success, you've got to be prepared for half the people in the room to hate you and half the people in the room to love you, because that's the polarization. That's the duality of it. And if you're walking the middle trying to please everyone, share your truth, share your essence. It might ruffle some feathers, but who cares? You're going to be so much better off for it. You might have people fall away. So what? Off. I didn't want you. I don't trust you. Go away. You don't deserve to be here. Am I going to listen to the criticism? Do they know? Do they know me? No. Or am I going to listen to the people who shout accolades and see the value in what I do? Of course. Now, they're the people that I want to serve. And if they've got questions or concerns, totally open door policy. But for the others, nah. But this is the thing. You've got to be so cutthroat. This is your boundaries. And you can enforce these boundaries when you have the self-worth and the confidence. And it takes time to build those things. It's not like you go onto social media and then, overnight you've immediately got all of this confidence to show up. It takes time. But you got to find your own little groove. And it might not be video. It might just be writing, or it might be creating your own little corner of the internet. And it might not even be Facebook. It might be Instagram. And if it's not, it might be TikTok. But you'll find your little niche. You'll find your little groove. And then when you find that groove, you can tap into the energy of that and create more. But you've got to be confident enough for it, in the first place. So here's another little tip for confidence, right? Because, people talk about all the time, they're talking about building confidence, building self-worth. I want to give you a practical tip to build your confidence, because this worked wonders for me, and I share it all the time in my containers. And it doesn't matter if it's on social media or if it's in real life. You can apply this in your life however you feel best. And it was like this, like I had very low self-worth, right? Very low self-worth and confidence. And it was like anytime someone complimented me, I couldn't accept it. Right? I felt like I had to give a compliment back. I felt like I had to reject it and say that's not true. It was like I couldn't receive the compliment because it felt wrong, or it felt not true, or I didn't believe it to be true. So if someone else saw that in me, then how could it be true? Right? And so I went through this experience probably back in like 2018, where I was like, I really want to start building my confidence. So I gave myself a task, and for 30 days, any interaction that I would have in person or on social media, I would take the time, the genuine time, to go and look at someone's profile or to ask questions to someone in real life. And I think back at that time, I was attending some conscious leaders events on the Gold Coast, and I was using it to really connect with people and ask genuine questions. And when I would ask these genuine questions, or I would think of a compliment for the other person, right? Because what is without, so within. So I would think of a compliment for another person, and I would, from my heart, share that compliment. And it didn't matter whether they accepted it or rejected it. It was just like I was sharing a genuine compliment from my heart for no reason, just unconditional love. And I noticed such a huge shift, because every time I did that from a place on my heart, I felt great. And it was like, this is where, they talk about the gift of giving. Like, giving is a gift. Even when you're giving a compliment to someone else, and you're doing it not just because you have to, but because you genuinely want to, like, that's filling your cup up too. And what I noticed is, after a certain amount of time, because I was giving those compliments from a genuine place, when I started to receive compliments instead of rejecting them, I would mirror what I was doing. So I was seeing through the lens of my own experience, and whether that person was genuine or not, they were giving me a compliment. Hey, I'll take it, because I can see how that could come from a very genuine place. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for validating me. Thank you for acknowledging me. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Oh, I fully receive that. That is beautiful. And I started to see how this compliment giving is a reflection of their reality, right? Because when I was giving compliments, it was a reflection of my reality. So it was like I was opening up that sphere of perception for myself, but then giving that self-worth and confidence to myself, and then coming into acceptance of others for where they're at in their journey, and it all just being okay. And I think this, it wasn't just the self-worth and confidence, but it really helped me with empathy and compassion. And I think if we can come into social media, or we can come into our businesses with that confidence, self-worth, with empathy and compassion, we're really going to forge a way for ourselves. Like, this is what is going to make you stand out in a crowd. When you have these skills, when you have these leadership traits, because I'll face it, in a world full of hot air and controversy and drama and like, this stuff stands out, and it becomes a magnet for people. It becomes a magnet for people. And trust me, you might be tested along the way, but those tests aren't to say you don't have the confidence. Those tests are to remind you of the level of confidence that you do have. Yeah, so I feel like let's just sort of wrap that up then. So it's been a little bit, I think we've been a little bit, much like anything that I do, there's a few little tangents and we go off in this direction and that direction. My intention for you today was really to just step into more confidence. Like, who cares what you're doing on Facebook? Who cares what you're doing in your finances? Like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and that's okay. And when you can focus on your essence and who you are and your self-worth and how you show up, that's the real driver for success. Not how much you can spruik that you make on social media, like how many sales you make. That doesn't tell me who you are as a person. And what is success? What sort of success do you want? Do you want to be known for the dollars that you make, or do you want to be known for the impact that you leave? The impact doesn't always come from money. It comes from who you are. The money is just the byproduct of you. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of Untethered. If you want to learn more about financial management, you can join my Facebook group. I'll be running another business metrics in April. Maybe I'll see you there. But yeah, thank you so much. Big love.